A lot could be said about Chicago's traffic. A lot of those words wouldn't be too nice for most people. But this is really interesting. There is a new traffic study from Inrix that says Chicago has the second worst traffic in the world. No, not the country, the world. Bob Pishue is joining me now to break down their findings. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm not sure that anyone in Chicago would be shocked at seeing us high on a list, but second in the world is a lot. So how did we get there?
Yeah, so again, yeah, don't be totally shocked by these rankings. You guys were there a couple of years ago too. You've just returned. But so what we did is we took a look at traffic in about 1,000 cities globally. So when you say the world, it may not be the entire world, but it is a sample of 1,000 cities, right? And Chicago topped the list. And that's mostly because New York didn't grow. Usually New York is above you guys, but this year New York stayed flat. And so you guys grew 10%. And so unfortunately you do have the title of, the most congested city in the country.
Oh my goodness. And so, what were the other ones maybe in the top 5?
Oh yeah, so I mean you got hold on, let me just look at this here. I can tell you. So Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and Boston. So you have good company, right? Those are all very congested cities as well. I mean, and that's really what we're seeing across the country. The vast majority of cities saw increases, and the good thing, I guess, to come out of this is this year's traffic patterns looked kind of similar to what we saw pre-COVID, right? I mean, it's much more, it's less erratic, it's less up and down. I think people have kind of established their commuting habits, and so hopefully we won't see increases like this in the near future.
Very interesting. I mean, I think about like all that is said about, you mentioned New York, but even like Los Angeles's 405 freeway and how much gridlock is on that on a regular basis. And to think that we're higher than both of them is like, whoa, oh my goodness. Even though we know that it's bad in this area. So when you all put together a study like this, what is the point of doing it? I mean, clearly there's a shock value to it, but what is the point?
Yeah, the point is that it allows cities to compare themselves to each other, right? Normally you've got all these different boundaries, county, metro, state, and when we're looking in other countries, you can't really make a fair comparison, right? Because their road network is different and all of that. But through this, we're able to allow you to directly compare to what it's like commuting in some of these other cities. And even some cities on our list like have it, in some of their code and stuff that, we don't want to have one of our roads show up on Inrix's benchmark or, Inrix's worst corridor report or something. So it allows them to monitor and make sure that they're delivering, a decent transportation system to, their residents.
Did you see all of these cities, like the top 5, top 10? Did you see all of them decline during the pandemic, and now we're coming back to like pre-pandemic levels, or are we in new territory?
Nope, you're exactly right. So it is kind of two-pronged, right? For one, I just checked, the Federal Highway Administration's website, and it's showing Americans are doing record driving. So right now we've traveled more miles on the road than we did in 2019. So we're already kind of beating those that pre-COVID thing. But yeah, all these cities fell, and some more than others though, right? We saw traffic really plummet in San Francisco and in DC, right? One's tech heavy, the other's government heavy. Anywhere where the industry was really, where kind of the metro area is based off of one or two industries. We saw it fall really hard. New York fell, but it also sprung back really quickly.
Mm.
And so I think that's why with New York kind of not growing, at all in this scorecard, I think that's kind of a sign for some of these other cities like Chicago and Boston and others, is that we're going to kind of see a plateau a little bit. I think that those commuting habits have kind of been established now,
Mm-hmm.
so it should be kind of, it won't be easy here on out, but it won't be huge changes.
Mm-hmm. How do you define? How does Inrix, define hours lost in traffic? How are you calculating that, and what does it say for Chicago?
Well, so how we calculate it is you have, if you were to go to your destination at night, generally, it's like free flow traffic. So we measure it with free flow traffic. No, nothing slowing you down really, except, stoplights and those types of things. Versus how it actually is during rush hour. And that difference, right? You can travel 65 at night, but rush hour you're traveling at 25. That difference of 40 is delay. And what it says for Chicago, I mean, I noticed a couple of things in Chicago's traffic patterns, right? The morning commutes, so you guys are up 10%, right? But there's a little bit of reprieve in the morning. So delays on kind of these routes that I was checking
Mm-hmm.
were actually a little bit easier in the morning. It's the evening peak that really, increased, and the duration of congestion was a little bit longer. So instead of like 3 hours, it was 4 hours. So those are, some things to deal with. But I think Chicago can deal with it. It's, a major city, and even, the DOT has reached out to me in the past, and we've had talks with them, and they're trying to find ways, and they're working toward trying to at least stop the rise in congestion and then go from there.
Yeah, and then how do you look at that as like a dollar value to the time that we're wasting essentially in traffic?
Yeah, so it's a little bit more than $2,000 per driver lost to congestion. It's $2,063. And what that kind of signifies, though, is that lost time is not time with friends. It's not time with your spouse or your kids or whoever, right? Your parents. Um, you're not working during that time, and so you're not as productive. All of that has a cost, and unfortunately, that is the cost of congestion, right? It's less time to do those things that we love to do, you know. And in addition, it affects sorry, it affects freight travel. So our goods and services are more expensive the longer that trucks sit in traffic.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think about even pollution as well. So when you are doing this survey, when you're looking at what kind of like technology are you using to come up with this information?
Yeah, so this technology comes from a bunch of different sources. The main source is anonymous GPS probe data. So like car data, floating car data is what it's called. Out of nav units, stuff like that. And then it's also things like trucking fleets and delivery fleets. Um, we often get data from those as well, anonymized, right, across the board. And then we also get data feeds from like city government, state government, um, and I can't, parking garages, loop detectors in the ground, camera feeds, kind of all of the above go into this, this pool of data that we're able to get some of these insights from.
Do you often find that the data that you pull together is then used for like advocacy for some solutions to traffic congestion or things like that?
Oh, absolutely. So, some of the things that, like, for example, it's used in a bunch of different ways. So, for example, like our data is being used as part of this pilot program in Portland, where it's delivery by cargo bike, right? When you get into that dense urban core, deliveries become a lot tougher. So it's being used for that purpose. It's used to see if a highway widening is a good idea, or if you should retime, traffic signals because, we noted that like when the city of Austin used our data to retime, traffic went down 10% on that corridor. So absolutely it goes to make trips better.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I don't know if we want to be first in the U.S. in this category, but it's at least good to know.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay, take care.